The following content is explicit. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Red Rum Podcasters. I'm Kristen.
And I'm Natasha.
And we're here to talk about true crime, spooky, kooky, and everything in between.
We'll find out, because we don't tell each other what we're going to cover before we cover it. So we never have an idea.
Yeah. I think that's my favorite part, is being able to, listen to your stories unbiased.
Yeah, fresh.
Yeah. I don't know what you're talking about for the week, and you don't know what I'm talking about for the week, and half the time we haven't heard each other's stories elsewhere either.
Yeah. So a lot of them, when we've just talked about topics, I've not recognized any of them. But I did want to make sure that I was super excited, because we had 63 listens so far, just with the introduction in the first episode.
That makes me really excited.
I was super excited. I know in the grand scheme of things, compared to other podcasts, that's like a little teeny tiny teardrop in an ocean. But to us, that's a big deal. So big thank you to everybody. And we've had nothing but great support and, comments and feedback. And it's just been great. And so thank you to everybody who's contributed. And for those of you who haven't, feel free to chime in.
Yeah, for two girls from a very small town in Indiana, this is a very exciting thing for us.
I agree. We also don't get out much. So, or at least I don't.
Also, to mention that we're in Indiana, we are officially in the Indiana summer heat.
Oh, good God.
And in the pod shack, it's a little toasty.
Yeah, we're sweating titties in here. I literally have sweat on my underboob, and we've only been in here for half an hour.
I don't even have to work for that.
Yeah, it's just nothing. I'm sweating in places that don't need to be sweating. It's just not pretty. Kristen was changing in here earlier just because it was so freaking hot. I was borderline bikini podcasting. I mean, it was going to be a whole thing, but I'm hoping that soon we will have an air conditioner. That is my hope for the next, I think my goal is 2 or 3 weeks, and I would like to have an air conditioner. I have been complaining about it to my husband, bless his heart, for 2 weeks now. And today, before we came out here, he was like, man, it's awfully hot out there, isn't it? I was like, you're telling me? I said, we got to go podcast in the tin can.
So if y'all want to help us out with this heat situation, go subscribe to our Patreon.
Yeah, for sure. We actually have it all over the place too, which point out that we're going to do shout outs. We'll probably do shout outs at the end, because we do actually have our first Patreon subscriber.
We have our first Patreon
Yes,
subscriber?
we do. And
oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
I'm laughing because I don't know who it is. I was hoping you might know who I'm assuming she is. I guess I shouldn't assume, but we're going to assume anyway. Come on, it's 2023. But yeah, so I'm super excited. So we have our first $5 subscriber.
Oh my gosh.
We're going to record our first Patreon episode in 2 weeks and get it posted by the end of the month, so that way she gets her extra. But on there, we have 2 different tiers. We have a $1 tier, which is just you get a shout on the pod. We're probably going to put it at the end in case, with our social media and everything. And if we fuck up your name,
sorry.
If I'm reading it, odds are I'm going to mess it up, unless it's Joe or something like that. I'll probably still mess it up. But we're going to put those at the end, and you get the shout out, and that's for the $1. And then we have a $5 one where you still get the same shout out at the end of one of the episodes, but you also get one bonus episode that we're going to do every month. It's going to be a little different than our typical setup. We were hoping to do a lengthier one on specific topics to get more of a personal touch to it, I guess, as opposed to just feeling like we're telling a story. It's going to be more interactive and that kind of stuff. So if you have any interesting topics.
Our one Patreon subscriber, if you have anything specific you want to listen to this month.
Yeah, shout out for sure and let us know. If not, what you might end up getting is one we wanted to do with, it's all about gingers, since, well, we're gingers. Just interesting facts and that kind of thing, statistics and just, weird, quirky things that make us us. there's some other ones on the docket that are coming up. So if it's something you might want to listen to, I know throw a little bit of a forecast out there. A couple of the topics that I want to do is Icelandic sex elves. Yes,
all you called them whenever you told me was Icelandic fairies. I didn't know they were sex elves.
Well, they're elves. They're sexy elves, and it's hilarious, and I love their stories, and they just crack me up, and I love them, and it fits us. Might even throw a little bit of history of sex toys in there for a Patreon episode, and maybe a little bit of alcohol at some point while we're recording those. We're still iffy on that because I'm not sure if I could contain myself if I do. For sure, check that out. Get everything on there. And our little Patreon person, don't worry. I'm not forgetting you. I'm not leaving you out. You're just going to put you at the end of the episode. But we're super pumped. I'm not like, I sent her a message. Like, as soon as I got the email, I sent her a message. I was like, oh my God, you're not going to believe this. And had to tell her. All right. In that case, let's go ahead and crack into this mess. And I think we decided that Kristen's going to go first since she's a Debbie Downer. Most of the time, I guess not all of them. I can't say for sure. But most of the time, she's a Debbie Downer. So we're going to let her go first, and then I'll follow after that.
Alrighty, so I'm really excited about this one because I know a lot of true crime podcasts mainly cover the gory, the sad, murder.
I'm all about the gore, baby.
People. And I know my first 2 episodes were already like that. Today, I'm covering a heist.
I like heists.
The money.
Ooh, I'm super excited.
So are you ready to get into this?
Oh, let's do it.
Okay, so this is the story of the Dunbar heist.
And I have no idea what that is.
So in 1997, just for a little bit of background, that's the year I was born.
I was like 1997. I'm like, excusez-moi? I was like in 2nd grade?
So in 1997, 5 men stole $18.9 million in under 30 minutes.
For those of you who can't see, I think my jaw just hit the floor. Don't know if you heard that.
So at the time, it was the largest cash heist in history. Alan Pace III worked at Dunbar Armored Facility on Monteo Street in Los Angeles as a safety officer. Here's where the money from the clients came in and was counted and sent out. Pace's job required him to know things such as floor plans, security camera locations, and the way to where the vault where the cash for the ATMs were kept.
Okay, that's too much information for one person to know.
It gets better.
Oh, great.
On September 12th, 1997, Pace was fired for tampering with company vehicles. With his robbery plans already in the works, this was a bit of a setback. Luckily, his original plan included help and an alibi.
So I was going to ask, when it says tampering with the vehicles, does it say what? Like, was he like janking their tires? Was he jiggling the knot or sort of breaking in, or it just
said tampering with vehicles. Pace recruited 4 other people: Thomas Johnson, Freddie McCrary Jr., Terry Brown Sr., and Eric Boyd. Now, remember that alibi that I mentioned?
Yeah.
Well, these 5 guys went to a big party in Long Beach. After a few hours, they donned black clothing and masks and headed to the depot. Pace still had a key to the facility.
What?
Yes.
Oh, wait, the guy still worked there technically, right?
No, he was fired.
Oh, he was fired? I thought you said he still worked. Oh, sorry.
No, he was
fired. My bad. But
So,
I don't know, but you're making me really want a cheeseburger when you're talking about 5 guys.
a safety measure that they surely now take is collecting keys from fired employees. So shortly after midnight, they entered through a side door, armed with ski masks, pistols, a shotgun, and radio headsets to help them communicate throughout the heist.
At least they were prepared.
Yeah. After overtaking the employees and tying them up, they used bolt cutters to cut the padlocks on the metal cages containing the cash. They stole mostly $20 bills meant for ATMs. So you may be wondering, how do you carry out almost $19 million in mostly 20s?
I'm over here trying to figure out. I'm just picturing like these huge like suitcases on wheels or something, or like a big box or something.
So the men put the cash into metal carts and loaded it into a U-Haul out at the loading dock.
Oh my God, that's genius.
Because of Pace's inside knowledge, they knew where all the security cameras were, so they smashed them.
Oh, shit. Maybe it's not genius. There's a record of whenever you rent a U-Haul. Wow, let me just get a little southern there.
Because of Pace's inside knowledge, they knew where all the security cameras were, so they smashed them. They also knew where the videotapes and everything were. So they accessed the videotapes and destroyed them as well.
This is why you back up to the cloud.
It's 1997.
Oh, right.
We didn't have the cloud.
Oops.
So one of the employees that had been tied up said that they had recognized Pace's voice, but investigators were thrown off by the signs of forced entry which were deliberately done. After they stole the money, they went back to one of the men's apartments and changed clothes and went back to the party. And by this time, the partygoers were pretty drunk, so they didn't notice that the men had previously left.
Oh, nice.
So they had their alibi.
I'm not sure I'd call it a reliable alibi, but I guess it's an alibi nonetheless.
Everybody just said, yeah, they were at the party.
They were here. Well, how drunk were you, sir? I don't know. Oh, shit.
So the investigators downplayed how much they got away with because they were worried that national media attention would send the thieves underground and they would be harder to catch from being more cautious with the money. All that they told the media that it was, quote, was more than $1 million.
Ooh.
End quote.
$1,001,001.
With Pace being let go, he was already a suspect, so the investigators kept eyes on him.
That wasn't very smart. I mean, you get canned, and then $19 million goes fucking missing. I mean, you might as well just put a target on your back.
But the thing is, he had already been planning the heist before he got fired.
Well, patience is a virtue. Give it a little time.
They already had their alibi. Like, they knew this party was going on.
Well, yeah, I guess if you think you have an ironclad alibi, then, well.
Investigators kept eyes on him and their other suspects to see if their lifestyles changed, like spending sprees or buying houses.
You bet your ass mine would.
And
I'd have like 20,000 dogs in the house.
There was a $125,000 reward for info leading to the arrest and conviction of the thieves. The investigators found something at the scene, and it was a piece of a taillight, but it didn't belong to any of the company vehicles.
Huh, so, I mean, it's obviously got to be the getaway vehicle, right?
So they eventually matched it to a specific size of U-Haul truck.
Oh, the U-Haul.
But that wasn't enough of a lead for them to get anywhere.
So how'd they get a piece of the tail? What'd they do, back into something?
I don't know.
Did they have a horrible getaway driver?
Maybe.
Huh.
So the men kept a relatively low profile. They spent millions on houses and cars, but they used other people to buy them for them.
Oh, well played.
So some houses were rented out and others were for their personal use. A few $100,000 was gambled away in Las Vegas.
Guilty.
So the IRS traced $2 million to a company established by Eugene Hill, new name, and Thomas Johnson. Johnson, being one of the original 5, they used this business to launder the stolen money.
Dude, they're getting like straight up out of a movie.
Yeah. So the thing that actually solved the heist was actually quite boring.
Oh. Let me down. Just letting the air out of my balloon.
An informant recognized Hill as the person who rented a U-Haul truck the day before the robbery and returned it the day after. And Hill was caught with a stack of bills bearing the money wrappers that belonged to Dunbar.
Seriously? They left the... What? I mean, I guess if you want it all nice and tidy and you want to know how much money you're grabbing, but come on.
He confessed and ratted out all of the other suspects.
Oh!
So each of the men were charged with conspiracy to commit robbery, using a gun during a crime of violence, and interfering with interstate commerce. Johnson faced an additional 24 counts of money laundering, and
Dang.
Pace tried to testify that he was being framed by another defendant, quote, because I was messing with his wife.
Oh. So when they robbed the bank, there were people in it?
They didn't rob a bank. So they robbed like...
Oh, it wasn't a bank? I don't know what Dunbar is.
So it's like a place. It's kind of like a Brinks where they stock ATMs.
But like there were people there?
Well, you have to have people working to...
Well, I didn't know if it was like employees or if it was like civilians and employees.
No, the people that were there that night were employees.
Okay.
Hence how they recognized.
Well, I was just thinking in my head, I was like, well, if nobody was like, I'm assuming they have somebody there 24/7, but if there was like a shift where there wasn't and they like rolled in with guns, I'm like, I'm not sure I'd charge them with using a gun during a crime if nobody was there.
No, they tied up the employees.
Yeah,
that
you
were
told
there.
me that. And I was like, hold on a second. I just had a total brain fart.
So Eric Boyd's father testified against him, saying his son told him to launder about $117,000 that his son said came from a drug deal, but it actually came from the heist. A task force made up of LAPD and FBI was able to recover only $5 million, mostly in the form of homes, cars, and other valuables. They thought the rest may have been burned, buried, or gambled away because of the traceability of the bills. Pace, the ringleader of all of this, was sentenced to 24 years and 2 months in federal prison.
Gee, some people don't even get that for murder.
He was also ordered to pay back the millions the group stole.
Wait, so he had to shoulder all the millions?
Yes.
That sucks.
Boyd was sentenced to 17 years, and the rest were sentenced to between 8 and 10 years.
That's pretty hefty. I mean, personally, I feel like, I mean, it's not I wouldn't consider that a violent crime.
Hefty. They stole almost $19 million, and they only recovered $5 million of it.
But they didn't take any hostages. No one got shot.
They tied up the employees. That's considered taking hostages.
No, that's just getting them out of the way. They're only hostages if the police are involved.
They're still hostages.
Nah. This is why I should never be trusted.
Lock her up.
Lock me up right now.
So that's the story of the Dunbar heist.
That's so interesting. I can't believe I'd never heard of that. But it sounds like a bunch of movies I've watched.
Yeah, it was like
I wonder if
an
that's
Ocean's 11 real life.
Yeah. I wonder if that's where they got some of the ideas.
I mean, when were the Ocean's movies made? Remember, this was done in 1997.
That's a Google question. I don't know.
I was only 7 months old. Okay.
Well, I was 7. No, I was 6. I was 2 weeks shy of my 7th birthday, to be specific. But yeah, that's like crazy. Like I can't believe how much time they got. Only because, like I said, there's people that like murder people and they don't get that much time.
I mean, look at my story last week. That murderer was already out.
Yeah. It's like you would expect that to be the opposite.
Yeah.
I mean, the one guy you said 24 years?
The main...
Oh, wait, that was because he got hit with stealing and the weapons and the laundering and all that. Like, he got the whole kit and caboodle, right?
No, that was not him.
No, that wasn't him? Or was that Thompson Thomas? Can't remember what his name was. I'm horrible with names. I'm like the worst whenever it comes to try. There's like 7 people in the story. I can't keep track of who's who. Did we ever... So, Thomas or Thompson or whatever his name was.
He was sentenced to the 8 to 10.
Oh, okay. But he got that charge for laundering and not the other guy.
Yeah, he got an extra charge for laundering.
So then how come the other guy got 24 and everybody else?
Because he was the mastermind behind the plan.
But he didn't do anything different besides orchestrate it.
I mean, that would be because if you think about it, would these 5 men have come together to rob this place if it weren't for Pace?
Touche.
Probably not.
Touche. And there was that Thomas or Thompson, whoever the guy is that had the business that was laundering the money. Mm-hmm. Who was the other guy that was on the business? Did he get time?
That was Eugene Hill. He's the one that rented the U-Haul for him.
Oh, man. The light bulbs are coming on slowly. They're a little dim, but they're on. We're getting there. I will follow up eventually. I'll catch up. I'm back here a little bit. trying to think if I have any more questions. I say that was a lot of action.
It's a pretty good story.
All right. Well, lesson learned. Don't rob anybody, and you won't go to jail.
And wait for the light bulbs to come on before asking questions.
Yeah, that's always a good one. Welcome to this week's Inner Bitchin'. Our topic today is interesting traits you probably inherited from your parents. Number 1.
Chew syndrome. When you sneeze and exposed to light.
Number 2.
Crooked pinky fingers.
Number 3.
Tone deafness.
Number 4.
Extra fingers and toes.
And number 5.
Whether or not your earlobes are attached to your head.
And welcome back from the Inner Bitchin'. So, Natasha, what do you have for us today?
So I actually have a UFO story today.
Those creep me out.
I know. So this one's not as creepy as a lot of the ones that I've heard. This one particularly is the Berkshire UFO sighting. It's kind of crazy. There's some stuff in there that just, to me, makes it seem like a little more believable. But of course, there's some stuff that makes me go, I don't know. I'm still on the edge for UFOs. Let's just go ahead and get into it, and then we can decide at the end what we think. All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. On a warm evening on Labor Day in 1969, near the old covered bridge in Sheffield, the Reed family was about to be balls deep in a terrifying encounter while on their way home from the family restaurant. Thomas Reed, who was in the back, his mother, who was driving, his grandmother, who was in the passenger seat, and his brother, who was in the back seat with him, were those present. Thomas was actually 9 years old at the time of the event and swore his whole life that he would always remember the experience in vivid detail. So that kind of tells me, this poor kid was scared to death.
I mean, I would be.
It's just, I can't even imagine being 9 years old and having this happen. As this seemingly good-natured family was innocently making their way home, they spotted a disc-shaped object silently hovering in the sky. The craft seen in this instance was described as being a giant, white, glowing orb. As they watched this enormous UFO hover, they simultaneously tried to escape. Because who wants to stick around and deal with that shit, right?
Like escape as in like speed off?
Yeah,
or
so like they're in the
jump
car.
out the car.
Oh no, they're in the
run.
car, and then mom's like gunning it, right? She's like, I gotta get this car out of here. I can think they got Granny with them. What are they gonna do? Like, she's like hobbling. Y'all can't see the motion I'm making of my little walker going fast.
Every man for themselves.
Yeah, see it, Grandma.
Like kick her to the curb.
Well, I think they were actually out on like some country roads too, so it would just be like Grandma would have been ditched. Like, talk about big bad wolf. Like, there was probably one running around.
Like stick her in the ditch and be like, sorry, you're
Yes.
gonna be the one abducted, not us.
Take her. As they looked behind them, they noticed their desperate attempt to flee the impending doom was null and void. To their absolute horror, the vehicle stalled at the most inconvenient time.
Of course it did.
Yes, it did. As the UFO retracted the family in, they were said to be engulfed in a light. And I mean, but family got taken. It was the family in the car. All of it got taken. Swooped up.
They wanted to know what the car was. They wanted to leave the people alone.
What's your make and model, sir? We wanted to contact you about your car's limited warranty.
I need your driver's license and registration.
I love your officer's voice there. That was fantastic. All right, so next thing they knew, they were sitting in what looked to be a giant airplane hangar that was bigger than a football field. Now, keep in mind, they see this orb, disc-shaped thingy with all this light, and they go in, and they look around, and they're in this giant hangar that's bigger than a football field. When you're looking at what took you, it doesn't appear to be bigger than a football field.
So whenever you say like they go in, do you mean like it like beamed them up and like
Yep.
sucked them up? Okay.
Yep, just swooped them right up. And I'm just thinking, vehicle that they're seeing, smaller than a football field, and you get in there and you're like, holy crap, this is huge. I don't know. But there was a hallway, and when they went in, it was a Y-shaped setup that was used to control traffic, is what they were assuming. Kind of like a go on the left and you're on the right, and this one goes here and this one goes there. So apparently they're very orderly little aliens. Next, they saw a room with a bowed-in rounded wall, and they stated that they witnessed massive beings similar to insects in appearance.
Insects is a very broad term.
I know. I'm thinking there was this old cartoon on Cartoon Network, like late at night, and there was the mantis.
Yes.
That's what I'm picturing. Like all these little mantis guys, like just clicking around up there.
Because, I mean, you could also, you could say that your stereotypical alien is sort of insect looking with their big eyes and everything else.
Oh, yeah, true. So on top of this, he goes in there, he sees all these beings, and they attempt to force Tom, again, 9-year-old little boy, onto this table.
Never go on the table.
Well, thankfully, he was able to get up, he jumped up, and he just hauled ass out of there. I don't know where he was going, but he was hauling ass.
Smart 9-year-old.
Suddenly, as soon as he takes off, he's back in the car. And they're on the road.
What?
So they said the atmosphere was reported to have felt like the inside of a hurricane with a change in barometric pressure. Like dead silent for a little bit. Not long, but just a little bit. And talk about some eerie shit. Like, I can't imagine, like, you're running from these mantis guys or whatever these things are, and then all of a sudden, boom, just like that, you're back in your car, and the pressure around you feels like you're, like, in some kind of, I don't know, vacuum chamber or something, and you don't feel like you can, like, do anything, and it's just quiet. Like, no birds, no bugs, no nothing, no wind, just silence. Oddly, when Tom came to, because apparently he was out cold, they don't know how long they were gone, he noticed his mother was unconscious, and his poor granny was walking down the middle of the road, completely in shock and incoherent. Like, think Granny from Ice Age.
So, they were like, oh, let's put the young ones back in the car, and they're like, let's just drop Granny off down the road.
Well,
Granny didn't make it back
I think
into
what
the
I
car.
read, what was weird is I think what was read was, so him and his brother flip-flop seats. Mom was in a different seat and Granny was out on the road.
So, Mom was not in the driver's seat anymore. She was in the passenger seat.
I'm pretty sure that's what I saw in there.
Granny's like, gotta drive these in.
And she's just walking in the road, I don't know, completely out of it. So I don't get it.
These aliens need to learn some common courtesy. I mean, you don't leave the elderly alone.
They're probably like, man, she's the one in the most shape. She makes the most sense. They'll take care of her. She'll be fine. But shockingly, when they did, everybody, came to and all of that, they realized that they had been gone for 2 hours. And to them, it only felt like a couple minutes.
Beamed him up, took a look around, tried to force small little boy on table, and then dropped him back down.
Well, yeah, so it was, he got up there, they're going through these weird hallways, and then they try to force the kid on the table, he goes to leave, and he blacked out. And the next thing they know, they're back on the road in the car, and 2 hours had gone by.
Crazy.
Yeah, I've got a bug on my leg here, or on my computer. It's okay. I didn't scream like a little girl, so we're doing all right. The Reed family members were not the only people to experience some weird stuff that night either. However, I would like to point out that they gave Tom a lie detector test, and it ended up saying that he was 99.1% truthful in his answers when he talked about what happened to him.
Inadmissible in court.
I know it's inadmissible in court, but I'm just saying that's a pretty high truth
they're
rate.
gonna sue the alien.
Yeah. I don't know why they did a test. I mean, I guess, I don't know, weeding them out, whatever. Anyway, so the local radio station that night claimed that it was completely bombarded with panicked people calling to report weird lights flashing in the sky, and that's according to Atlas Obscura. There were 40 residents of Berkshire County, Massachusetts, that claimed to have shared the experience all at the same time. So, they're just getting left and right, people calling. There's 40 people that are swearing that they're seeing the same craft. Sorry, air quotes, craft. Which I thought was a little bonkers. So most of them, well, almost all of them, at some point, as they're watching these lights and they're like reporting all this stuff, apparently lost time. Now, granted, I know if I'm looking at something and I'm like real interested in what I'm looking at, I lose track of time.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was anything extraterrestrial or if it was just them being totally like, you know, ADHD focused on this thing in the sky. I don't know. Rumor has it this string of sightings and abductions was the aliens' way to get revenge for the supposed moon landing that happened not too long before this. So they're saying, we landed on the moon and now these aliens are over here and they're messing with us because you guys went to the moon and pissed them off. That was their story.
No.
I wish that they could see the look on your face of sheer like, you're shitting me.
Just
like,
straight up bullshit.
Others state that the whole thing was a hoax, and those who came forward simply wanted notoriety. Since the event, the Great Barrington Historical Society established a historical event at the Berkshire UFO sighting, stating that it was the first, quote, unquote, historically significant and true alien encounter. So they're saying, it's true, all these people saw it, we're going to make it like an actual historical event, and then they put up a 5,000 pound, which says that it's like 2,768 kilograms, if I got that right, is how much this a monument to cover the bridge at the scene where he spotted the craft. So, like where Tom Reed saw the craft and his family, they like erected this big ass monument. It's like, I'm trying to remember. So one source said that it was made of concrete, one said it was limestone, one said it was like marble. I don't know. So I don't know exactly what it's made of. But anyways, then I saw where then they had to move it for some reason. I don't know if it was too close to the bridge or what, but like, so this bridge now is like historical chunk of property, all because of what happened.
I wish you could see my face.
Yes, I wish you could see her face because sometimes when I say something, she's looking at me like I'm just dumber than hell. Like, I don't know. I'm like, I'm just reading the story, man.
No, it's not that. It's just, I'm just a little dumbfounded that, okay, I know there's people out there that completely believe in everything that happens, but I'm a little shocked that they made it a historical event and erected a monument for it.
Yeah. I thought that was a little bit of overkill. So, I gotta ask you, Kristen.
Okay.
Do you believe that there are things out there that are visiting us?
I wouldn't rule out the possibility of it. Like, I'm open to the possibility of it. But then there's also those stories out there where you're just like, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way. But I would be lying if I hadn't said that I had seen things that don't make sense.
Well, I get that. What gets me, what I like about this story in particular is that the aliens in the story are not your typical grays. So it's like anytime after what, like the 60s, it seems like 90-something% of all alien encounters or abductions or whatever all have something to do with the grays. And you never have like I'm sorry, but in my head, that's like a whole nother thing for another day. People have their different ideas of, oh, the grays are, you know, obviously aliens, or maybe they're interdimensional beings, or maybe they're us from the future that came back because they're missing something, or maybe evolution went horribly wrong somewhere and they need to try to be more primitive, so they come back to us. I've heard all kinds of stories. But to me, there's no way that they all, like, if all these things are visiting us, there's no way that they all look alike.
No.
So the fact that this one gives us another being that looks different. Now, it's not very descriptive. It just says insect-like. So, I mean, I just keep having this mantis in my head. It could be mantis. It could be cockroach. It could be fire ant. Like, we don't, it could be all three put together.
It could be like the ant off of Monsters vs. Aliens.
I loved him. He was so smart. Yeah.
No, he was a roach.
Oh, he was a roach. Yeah, because he was the professor.
He was Dr. Roach.
Yeah. He could be like him. That would make sense. We're going with that. I don't know. I still like the idea of these little mantis guys up there in their little, like, kung fu suits.
Kung fu suits?
Well, he always had on that, like, white jacket or shirt thing, that looked like karate people wear. Didn't he wear one of those?
I don't remember.
The mantis guy? We'll have to look it up. But yeah.
That was actually on our Instagram.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I still gotta post it on Instagram. Oh, speaking of Instagram, look at that segue. We would love it if you guys came and found us on social media. So we have a Facebook group, we have an Instagram, we have Twitter. I think those are all our social medias that we have, and it's all the Red Rum Podcasters. It's all with spaces except the Facebook page because it wouldn't let me switch it after I already did it, and that was my fuck up. So it's all one word. So we have those, and we do need to do a shout out.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for this.
I'm so excited! Okay. Whew.
Dun,
Breathe,
dun, dun.
breathe. Our first one. Whew. All right.
We would like to thank our Patreon subscriber,
Michaela, is all it says. It just says Michaela. So thank you, Michaela. You're awesome. And this is so cool. For everybody else who wants to get a shout out, hop on over to our Patreon page. We have a $1 and a $5 one. I think I talked about it at the beginning, but just in case, $1 gets you a shout out, $5 gets you a shout out and a bonus episode every month. It's going to be set up a little different than our typical episodes just because, well, we figured what the hell. So, let's see here. We got that. If you wouldn't mind being so gracious as to click on those little stars that you see when you see our podcast and give us like a really good review, that would be freaking fantastic. I would appreciate it. And I'm sure Kristen would too.
Yes, very much so.
From what I heard, those are really good ways to get the pod out there. People are going to look at it. If they do stumble across us, I guess a lot of times, I don't do this, but I've been told a lot of times people look to be like, ooh, there's reviews. Let me look at them. If there's a bunch of good ones, or even if there's some in general, that'll at least pique their interest. If there's good ones, they'll be like, oh, I'm going to check it out now. But sometimes if there's not any reviews or anything on there, they'll just kind of be like, I don't know, maybe it's bogus. And then they'll just move on to the next one. So if you wouldn't mind, please go into whichever one you listen to, which if you're listening to us now, you already have a place to listen to us for. But if you know anybody who is not listening, send them our way. We're on Amazon Music. We're on Pandora, Spotify, Apple Music, Podcast Addict, and a bunch of other ones. Ooh, Podbean is another one.
Hopefully going to be on Google Podcasts soon. They have like a 2-week waiting period for posting potentially. So
I know. I set it up last week. Well, I set it up 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
And it said 2 to 3 weeks or something like that. And so hopefully we'll be on there. But in the meantime, we do have, these other ones. So feel free to point in that direction. Everything's the Red Rum Podcasters. So you should be able to find us anywhere. Also, feel free to reach out if you have any suggestions, any feedback, anything like that. If you have a topic that maybe you're interested in, you'd like to know more about it, or you just be like, this would be really cool to hear about or have them, cover, feel free to reach out to us either on the social media, or we do have an email that is theredrumpodcasters@gmail.com. So feel free to use any of those to get a hold of us. I don't know if I missed anything.
Make sure to follow us on whatever podcast app you're listening to so that you get notifications for whenever we drop new episodes on Sundays.
Yep. Should be Sundays at 12 a.m. Patreon's going to be a little different. Those ones might fluctuate depending on the time. I haven't set an exact date on what those are, but they will be at least one every month. Can't think of anything else. You got anything else?
I think that's it for me.
All right. Well, I guess take it easy and stay strange.